The night the old Apache woman knocked on the door, the wind was howling like it carried every sorrow the desert had ever swallowed. The moon hung pale and cracked above the plains, and dust crept along the ground like something alive, searching for warmth. Inside the small ranch house, the fire was dying low, and the cowboy had already decided that no one in their right mind would be traveling at such an hour. That was when the knock came, soft at first, then trembling, as if the hand behind it might break if it tried again. "No one will take us in," the old woman whispered when he opened the door, her voice nearly stolen by the wind. She stood hunched, wrapped in a worn blanket that had once been bright with tribal colors. At her sides were two girls, thin as reeds, their dark eyes wide with fear and hope fighting the same battle. The cowboy froze, knowing in that single breath that whatever choice he made would follow him for the rest of his life. He had learned long ago not to trust strangers. The frontier taught men that kindness could get you killed, and mercy could leave you starving. Still, when his eyes fell on the girl's bare feet, cracked and bleeding from miles of cold dirt, something old and stubborn stirred in his chest. He saw his own past in them, a past he had buried beneath work, silence, and long lonely nights. The old woman did not beg. She did not cry. She only lowered her head, as if already expecting the door to close. "We will sleep in the dirt if we must," she said quietly. "But my daughters are tired. They are still children." The cowboy swallowed hard. He stepped aside without a word and held the door open wider. The girls hesitated, glancing at their grandmother, and only moved when the old woman placed a shaking hand on each of their shoulders. They crossed the threshold as if entering a sacred place, afraid to breathe too loudly, afraid the warmth might vanish if they moved too fast. Inside, the ranch house was simple, rough wooden walls, a small table, and a few chairs scarred by time. The cowboy set more wood on the fire, and the flames sprang up, painting the room in golden shadow. The girls stared at the fire like it was a miracle. The old woman murmured a quiet prayer in Apache, her voice thick with gratitude. They did not speak much that night. The cowboy brought out what little food he had, cornbread, beans, and dried meat. It wasn't much, but the girls ate as if it were a feast. The old woman waited until they had finished before taking a few careful bites herself. That alone told him more about her character than any story ever could. When sleep finally came, he gave them his own bed and took a blanket to the floor near the fire. As he lay there, staring at the ceiling, he wondered what kind of trouble he had just invited into his life. Yet for the first time in years, the house did not feel empty. Morning revealed truths the night had hidden. The old woman's name was Nalan, and the girls were her granddaughters, Ayanna and Sani. Their parents had died years apart, one from illness, the other from violence that never made the newspapers. Their people had been pushed farther and farther from the land that once fed them, until there was nowhere left to go. They had knocked on doors before. Some never opened. Others opened only long enough to shout at them or threaten them with guns. By the time they reached the cowboy's ranch, Nalan had already accepted that the world had no room left for them. The cowboy, whose name was Eli, listened without interrupting. He had lost his wife to a winter fever and his son to a river that ran too fast after the spring thaw. Grief had hardened him, shaped him into a man who spoke little and trusted less. Yet as he watched Ayanna help her younger sister tie her hair with gentle patience, something inside him began to soften. The challenges came quickly. Neighbors rode by and frowned when they saw Apache children hanging laundry or feeding chickens. Whispers spread faster than wildfire. Some said Eli had lost his mind. Others warned him that helping those people would bring trouble. One man even told him outright that he'd be sorry. Eli tried to ignore them, but doubt crept in at night. He worried about food running out, about violence knocking on his door next, about whether kindness was a luxury he could no longer afford. Still, every morning, the girls greeted him with shy smiles, and Nalan thanked him as if he had saved their lives all over again. Trouble finally arrived on horseback. A group of men came demanding that Eli turn the Apache family away. They claimed the land was no place for them, that their presence would bring danger. Eli stood on his porch, heart pounding, hands steady. For a moment, he considered stepping aside, letting fear make the decision for him. Then he saw Sani peeking through the window, clutching her sister's hand. He remembered his own son's face, the day he failed to protect him from the river. That memory burned hotter than fear. "They stay," Eli said firmly. This is my land, and anyone who doesn't like it can ride on. The men left, muttering threats, but they did not return. Word spread again, this time about a cowboy who stood his ground. Slowly, attitudes shifted. A woman from a nearby ranch brought flour. Another left blankets by the fence. The world did not change overnight, but cracks formed in its cruelty. Seasons passed. The girls grew stronger, their laughter filling spaces that had long been silent. Naylin helped where she could, teaching Eli things the land had taught her people: how to listen to the wind, how to respect the soil, how to survive without taking more than needed. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in fire, Naylin sat beside Eli on the porch. "You gave us more than shelter," she said. "You gave us dignity." Eli looked out at the land, feeling something like peace settle into his bones. "You gave this place life again," he replied. When Naylin passed away quietly one winter night, she did so knowing her granddaughters were safe. Eli buried her beneath a cottonwood tree and promised the girls they would never be alone again. Years later, people would say that ranch became a place where lost souls found their way. They would talk about a cowboy who opened his door on a cold night and changed not only 3 lives, but his own. Because sometimes, when the world says there is no room left, all it takes is one door opened with courage to prove it wrong.